because this is not a story about crowns or titles or palace decisions. This is a story about two children and what they mean to everyone who loves them, and what the world is fighting over while they simply grow up in the California sunshine, not knowing any of it exists. Hello, friends. My name is James, and you are watching Royal Daily Report, your #1 source for the most exclusive and most emotional royal stories on the internet. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now, because tonight we are telling a story that every parent, every grandparent, every person who has ever loved a child will feel in their bones. And if you have been with us from the beginning, you already know. We never hold back. We never pull back. Let us get into it. And before we go one single word further, if you are not subscribed to Royal Daily Report, hit that button right now. Turn on those notifications, because this story is the most human thing we have ever covered on this channel, and the follow-up is coming very soon. Subscribe now. Let us get into it. Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor is 6 years old. Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor is 4 years old. They live in a beautiful house in Montecito, California, with their parents and their dogs, and a garden that their father loves, and a kitchen that smells of whatever their mother is making that day. They go to school. They have friends. They argue with each other the way siblings argue, and then make up the way siblings make up within minutes, because at 6 and 4 years old, the grudge has not yet been invented. They are two of the most ordinary, extraordinary children on earth, and tonight we are telling their story. Not the legal story, not the institutional story, not the story of what the palace has decided, or what documents have been filed, or what titles have been given or taken away. The human story, the story that exists underneath all of that, the story of who Archie and Lilibet actually are. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now, because our source who has spent time with this family in California, and who came to us this week because they said the world keeps talking about these children as arguments and assets, and the world deserves to know who they actually are, is sharing something tonight that nobody else has reported. Subscribe now. Hit that button. Turn on those notifications. Subscribe now. Our source is someone who has been in that Montecito house, who has sat at the kitchen table while breakfast was being made, who has watched Archie do homework with the focused concentration of a child who takes things seriously, who has watched Lilibet carry on an extended conversation with a dog, as if the dog were a close personal friend, with opinions that deserve to be heard. Someone who came to us this week and said, "I need the world to know who these children are, not what they represent, not what the arguments about them mean, who they actually are, because they are extraordinary. And the people fighting over their future have mostly never been in the same room with them." Archie, at 6 years old, is a boy who notices things. Our source describes him as the kind of child who walks into a room and immediately identifies the person who needs company, who gravitates toward whoever seems left out or tired or sad, without being asked to, and without making a performance of it. He just goes and sits next to them. He asks a question. He stays. Our source says they have watched him do this multiple times, in multiple different settings, and every single time, it looks completely natural. Not taught, not performed, just who he is. He also has his father's laugh, the laugh that starts in the eyes before it reaches the mouth, the laugh that is so genuine and so unguarded that it makes everyone around him laugh too, even before they know what is funny. Our source says there are moments watching Archie laugh when the resemblance to Harry at the same age, in the photographs in the home videos, is so complete it takes your breath away. He is also, according to our source, someone who has a very specific relationship with fairness. He notices when something is unfair, not just when something is unfair to him, That is easy. Every child notices that. But when something is unfair to someone else, when a rule doesn't make sense, when someone isn't being treated right, he will point it out, quietly, precisely, with the particular seriousness of a 6-year-old who has thought about it carefully before speaking. Our source says Harry once told them that watching Archie notice injustice and name it is one of the most moving things he has ever experienced as a parent, because it means something in him, something he has always believed in, always fought for in his own complicated way, is living in his son, without being put there deliberately, just living there, because that is who Archie is. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now, because Lilibet's story is the one our source says they find hardest to tell, because the words keep feeling too small for what they are trying to describe. Subscribe, hit that button, turn on those notifications, subscribe now. Lilibet, at 4 years old, is, our source pauses here every time they try to describe her, and then they always use the same word. They say she is undeniable, not loud, not demanding, not the kind of presence that fills a room through volume or energy, the kind of presence that fills a room through attention, through the quality of the attention she brings to everything she encounters. She looks at things, really looks, with those eyes, the eyes that everyone who has seen photographs of the young Queen Elizabeth recognizes immediately. She looks at things with a focus and a seriousness that makes adults feel genuinely seen in a way they do not expect from a 4-year-old. Our source says the first time Lilibet looked at them directly and held the look they had, the sudden absurd feeling of being assessed, not judged, assessed, by a 4-year-old, with the eyes of a woman who ruled for 70 years. It was one of the strangest and most moving experiences they have had in a long time. She is also completely fearless. Our source says this is the word everyone who spends time with Lilibet uses eventually. Fearless. Not reckless. Not the kind of fearless that makes parents nervous. The kind of fearless that comes from complete security, from knowing absolutely that she is loved, that her world is safe, that if she falls, someone will catch her. And from that foundation of total security, she approaches everything, new places, new people, new experiences, with an openness that our source describes as one of the most purely joyful things they have ever witnessed in a child. She does not hold back. She does not wait to see if something is safe before throwing herself into it. She goes, completely, with her whole self. And our source says watching this, watching a child who has not yet learned to be afraid, is something they will carry with them forever. And then, there is the relationship between Archie and Lilibet, which our source says is the thing about this family that moves them most, because Archie is 2 years older than his sister, and in most sibling pairs, that age gap creates a dynamic where the older child is at best tolerant of the younger one. But with Archie and Lilibet, it is different. Archie watches out for his sister with a protectiveness that goes beyond what most 6-year-olds feel. He explains things to her, carefully, patiently, in language he has calibrated specifically for a 4-year-old, without being condescending. He remembers what she likes, and what frightens her, and what makes her laugh. He notices when she is left out of something, and fixes it before an adult has to intervene. Our source says watching this, watching a 6-year-old boy be that kind to his little sister, is one of the most moving things they have ever seen in that house. Because Archie does it when nobody is watching. He is just being who he is. And who he is at 6 years old is someone who loves his sister with a completeness that most adults spend their whole lives trying to achieve. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now, because the moment our source described to us, the specific Sunday afternoon in that California garden that they said was the reason they needed to tell this story, is coming right now. Subscribe now, hit that button, turn on those notifications, Subscribe now. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Our source was sitting where they could see the garden through a window. Harry was outside with both children, just the three of them. Meghan was inside. And what our source watched happen in that garden on that Sunday afternoon is something they described to us with such care and such detail that we understood immediately how important it was to them to get it exactly right. Harry was sitting on the grass. Archie was showing him something. Our source believes it was a particularly interesting stone, though it may have been a bug, holding it out in his palm with the serious authority of a child presenting important evidence. Harry was leaning forward, looking at it with complete genuine attention. Not performing attention, actually paying it, asking questions, real questions. The kind that told Archie his father was genuinely interested in whatever was in his hand, and Archie was answering with the confidence of a 6-year-old expert, explaining something he knows better than anyone else in the world. And Lilibet was sitting in Harry's lap, facing outward, leaning back against her father's chest, watching her brother with an expression that our source described as the most complete contentment they had ever seen on a child's face. Not excited, not performing, just content, completely quietly, perfectly content. In her father's arms, watching her brother explain something important on a Sunday afternoon in California. Our source watched this for several minutes, and they said, I kept thinking about what was happening on the other side of the world at that same moment. The meetings, the documents, the legal arguments, the palace decisions, the people in boardrooms deciding what these children's names mean and what their futures look like and what the official record will say about them. All of that existing simultaneously with this, a father on the grass with his children on a Sunday afternoon, a 6-year-old boy with a stone and a father who was genuinely interested, a 4-year-old girl leaning back against her father's chest with those eyes and that expression of perfect contentment. And I thought, whatever anyone decides, whatever the palace decides, whatever gets written in whatever documents, this right here, this is what matters. This is what none of them can touch. Whatever anyone decides about what Archie and Lilibet are called in the official books, it cannot touch this. It cannot reach into that garden. It cannot change what is happening on that grass on a Sunday afternoon. It cannot take this away from them. There are people who have never been in that garden who are making decisions about what these children's future looks like. There are people who will never meet Archie or hear his laugh, or watch him sit next to the person who needs company, or see him explain something important to his sister, who are deciding what his name means in the official record. There are people who will never look into Lilibet's eyes and feel that strange, extraordinary experience of being assessed by a 4-year-old with her great-grandmother's presence, who are deciding what her title is and whether her baptism counts, and what documents need to be filed to confirm that she belongs to the history she was born into. Our source says one thing at the end of every conversation about these children, the same thing every time. They say, the world is arguing about what Archie and Lilibet are called. Nobody is arguing about who they are, and who they are is extraordinary, and that will be true, whatever anyone decides. Whatever gets written, whatever the official record eventually says about them, who they are will be true in a garden in California on a Sunday afternoon with a stone and a patient father and the most complete contentment in the world. And no document anywhere has ever changed who a child is. Not once, not ever, and it never will. That is all for tonight, friends. I am James, and this has been Royal Daily Report. If this story moved you tonight, hit that like button right now. Subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications, because we are here every single week with the stories that go deeper than the headlines. Share this tonight with someone who loves a child, with someone who knows what it means to watch a child simply be themselves, with someone who understands that some things are too real and too true for any institution to touch. I will see you in the next one. Until then, stay informed, stay curious, and stay royal. Goodbye, friends.